Okay, fine. So today, we have decided to decide a theme for every meeting. So just to give it a little definition, just to give it a little in uniformity, so that people can ask similar questions to the topic, to the theme. And today's theme is parent and child relationship. So I will try and talk a little before we start taking questions, and I will share something from my side what I think about these kind of this relationship, parent child. And I hope so that every week we will take different themes. I will be more than excited to take different themes, and I hope you are also excited with the concept that we get to discuss new topics as a group, so that everyone can share their ideas, everyone can ask questions related to it. So let's begin. I'm Srimant Yadav. For the people who are new here, I'm a practicing psychotherapist, and we have started this forum to come together and discuss mental health issues, discuss challenges, and to understand that we all go through similar challenges, we all go through similar difficulties in our life, and to eradicate the taboo which people have about mental health and personal challenges or issues, psychological issues. That's what we want to eradicate. So that's why a lot of people are, this is our fifth Friday we are here, and a lot of people do come religiously every Friday, and I'm so happy to see all of you again and again, and discussing issues, asking questions. So today our theme is, let's start with our theme today. There are a lot of parents in this group, and I will try and give you some insight into what is my understanding of how parent and child relationship works. So as a parent and child relationship, why we discuss this topic is that it's the most important relationship for any individual. Not looking at it from the parent side, not looking at it from the child side. But this relationship influences an individual in such a way that the influence can stay with that person for a lifetime. And it can influence their decisions, it can influence their thinking, it can influence their lifestyle. A lot of things can be influenced and can be known from what kind of parent and child interaction an individual had. So that's why I'm going to discuss this first. So there are usually stages in development. So let's discuss the stages. Let's understand from the age of 0. So as soon as a child is born to the age of 6 to 7, the child goes through a phase wherein we can say neurological development. The child is the development is usually focused on the neurological development, the brain development, the neuron development, the neural connectivity in the brain. All of these things are the main focus during the first few years. Now, why does this happen? Because if that neurological development doesn't happen properly, the child may face challenges, or that individual may face challenges for a lifetime. So around 0 to 6 is the age wherein neurological development happens. That's where we learn languages. That's where we learn walking. We learn how to speak. We learn how to connect with other people. We learn how to hold pencil or chalk, crayons. All of these things usually happen in the 0 to 6 years of age. That's why even in India or all over the world, the usually school age group, so when formal schooling starts, that starts around after 6 years of age, because the neural development happens during these years, and the child is given an opportunity to explore the world very unfiltered, I would say. Now, why this happens? Because in this age group also the child develops an unconscious mind, which is already there. But usually in this age group, the child is absolutely unconscious of what they are learning. The nature has actually given this as a strength to every individual and every human being, because they can learn a lot of things without any decisions, without any choices. That is why we learn 4 to 5 languages. 4 languages usually, almost 70 to 80% people learn 4 languages if the opportunity is given, very easily. So 4 languages is very easy for anybody to learn without any neurological problem. So all of these things happens during the 0 to 6 or 7 years of age. Now 0 to 6 to 7 years of age is also what we call emotional development. This is the time when the child is most attached to the mother. The mother is the primary caregiver. Now, mother don't take necessarily a biological mother. It can be anybody. It can be a grandmother. It can be a caretaker. It can be a nanny. Anyone. So the first caregiver, the primary caregiver, what we would say mother, is the person who passes on the emotions to the child. Mother gives warmth. Mother gives food. Mother gives security. Mother gives listening soundboard. Everything is provided by the mother. That's why that is the main influence. The mother has the main influence on any child. Now, after that, we would come to the age group between 7 to 14. Here, we would say that it is a cognitive development. Cognitive means thought processes, ideas, belief systems, uh, concepts. Everything comes under cognitive. Memories comes under cognitive development. Now, why do we say cognitive development in this year? Earlier, cognitive development was not happening. ऐसा question नहीं है. Earlier, before 6 years or 7 years of age, it is more of unconscious development. After that, after 7 years of age, a person, an individual starts deciding what they want to learn, what they do not want to. Till then, they are usually learning very unfiltered information. Then comes the most important part, I feel, to become an individual, to become a complete individual, is the age group from 13 to 21. I would say this is the age group when the person develops their personality, an individual develops their personality, which stays for them throughout their life, irrespective of they change the atmosphere where they live, irrespective of they change the people they live with, they may change the country where they live, but still the personality stays almost constant. Okay, so these are the usually three stages. Why I'm saying in the child development, I'm not considering children or individuals above 14 and 15 as children, but I'm saying when it comes to parent and child relationship, we need to consider how it affects them. Now let's come to how parents influence the development of a child. I'm going to give you very brief so that we can start with the questions. 0 to 7, what we say is the mother's age. Why mother's age? Because mothers gives emotions. All mothers pass on the emotions which are necessary for well functioning in their life. Mother can pass on negative emotions, a mother can pass on positive emotions, both. That is why we always take care of the mother during the first few years after pregnancy when the child is born. That is why it is said that we need to give a gap of 5 years between two children. Why? Because we have to also pay attention to how the mother is influencing the child. What is the mother's mental state? From 0 to 7, when the mother gives the child complete emotions, emotions are security, food, warmth, all of these come across for the child as emotions. After the emotions part, from the age of 7 to 14, we need to consider that this age is for the father. Now, why father? Because the child has to be developed in a different way to face the world. Now, the child doesn't face the world during the years of 7 to 14, but after 15 years of age, the child is thrown into the world. That's why we finish our 10th standard, we go into high school or colleges, we start living in hostels. All of these things usually begin after your 15 years of age. Now, this is where you enter the world, you start facing the world. But if there are some challenges, so let's say from 0 to 7, if there are some unconscious problems which are absorbed from the parents into the child, these things become a challenge later on during the growth. That is why we need to be very careful when it comes to the age group of 0 to 7, because it's all unconscious and the child absorbs everything what the mother or father or the family members pass on to them. So this is what we need to do. The second one, usually what we say is parents, how parents influence the development is cognitive influence. Beliefs. The parents pass on beliefs to the child. The parents pass on ideas. Now, these ideas are not just about the world. These ideas and belief systems are about the individual itself. So many a times parents have typical ways of defining their child. Of course, many parents who come to me always say my child is very intelligent, very good, that is good. But they will give some adjectives. ये बहुत lazy है. This is one belief system they will put into it. ये बहुत lazy है. ये बहुत टाइम लेता है कुछ करने को. He doesn't have confidence. So these are labels which become belief systems, which become actually facts for the child. This may not be true, but as parents repeatedly say these things in front of the child, they reinforce this as a belief system into the child. Now, this is the same belief system which is created unconsciously into the mind of the child. And then, as an adult, they take it, they carry it into their adulthood. And this is the, so in between 15 to 21 is the age group wherein they actually fight all of these challenges. The 15 to 21 age group, I would say, is the third stage, which is about personality development. आपका unconscious development हो गया, आपका neurological development हो गया, then comes your cognitive development. In simple words, the software of your mind, the software of your brain. Hardware happens below 7 years, software happens above 7 years. Once that happens, then comes the part of personality. Now that is where you all who are sitting here, all the adults, or maybe some of you are teenagers who are sitting here, you have become what you have become today because of that age group. So if you find some challenges in your personality today saying, yeah, I feel this, this is something wrong about me, or this I'm not able to deal it with it perfectly, that's because there is some challenge in the personality, or this was introduced to you, reinforced on you during your growing up years. Now, there are many people who have stage fright. There are many people who will say, yeah, I cannot stand on the stage and talk in front of people. Some people cannot even do presentations. Even if it's a small crowd, small audience or number of 5 to 10 people, they will find it very difficult. Now, that is why does this happen? Because during teen years or growing up years, some kind of idea is been implanted in you by the parents or by your experiences. But it stays with you even in your 40s and 50s. People who work in corporates, they will shiver when it has to come to do a presentation. Even if they are grown up people and they are confident of everything in the other things in their life, but when it comes to presentations, they will back off, they will withdraw. Why? Because this belief has been implanted in you during your growing up years. So that's why 15 to 21 age is the introduction to the world. The person, the individual, and all of you who have crossed that age group have learned from the feedback of the society around you. Now, what happens? You take some ideas, unconscious ideas, conscious ideas. So between the age of 7 to 14, you carry all these ideas and walk into the world. You say, "Ab main duniya dekhunga." I will look at the world in my own way. So all these baggage, on the right hand you have conscious mind, on the left hand you have unconscious learnings, and you carry this into the world. Now during this time, this is the age wherein majority conflicts happen. Now these conflicts are with the outer world, these conflicts are with your inner being, these conflicts are with your parents. All of these things influence you to become an individual. Now, this is the stage wherein you become what you become today through the friction which you had with the society. So you will get constant feedback. So if you are arrogant, the society will tell you, what are you doing? Change your behavior. If you are timid, the society will tell you you are timid. They will show it to you. If you are a person who is very confident, they will appreciate you. So all of these things, feedback, there is a constant feedback, there is a constant reinforcement from your surroundings. And I mean to say society means everyone. Your family members, your relatives, your school teachers, professors, everyone other than you comes under society. All of these people reinforce something in you. And that is how you become an individual. That's why we need to be very careful as parents and as, of course, teenagers, what we carry into the world. Parents especially need to be very careful how they influence the child, how they influence the individual when, especially in this age. Because if you break your child's confidence during these years, they will face challenges for a lifetime. They are not trying to fight the world. They're actually trying to fight the irrational belief system which they have in their mind. And they think that where is the problem? They tend to go out into the world and say, okay, there is the problem. My school is a problem. My college is a problem. My girlfriend was a problem. My friends are a problem. No. There is some kind of belief system which is set in you during your grown up years. and that becomes the reason for your problems. So that's why parent and child need to be very cautious during these years. The next one is for parents, this age group after 12 to 13 years, 12 or 13 years of age, parents go into panic mode. And usually it is said that handling a teenager is the most difficult part in life. Now, this difficulty is because the child is moving into the adulthood during the adolescence years. It's the child is moving into the adulthood saying, I am not a child anymore. Now, as soon as the child says, I am not a child anymore, parents say, what is my existence if you are not a child anymore? That's where the panic starts. My child doesn't need me. Oh my God, I need to do something. My child doesn't ask me for advice. Oh my God, I need to do something. So what happens? Parents go into overdrive during these years. Now the child is saying, please leave me alone. I want to become an adult. The parent saying, no, no, you are still a child. Come back. This is the major reason why parents experience conflicts during these years from the age of 12 to 21. And parents come to us and say what all about their children. Means some parents even say nahi hota to acha hota. And that's absolutely fine because sometimes teenagers do test everyone's patience. But this is the reason the conflict happens. The conflict is not about that your child is a bad child or an aggressive and arrogant child, or your child starts believing कि मुझे सब कुछ आता है. The conflict is between these ideologies, wherein the parent wants the child to come back to them. The child says, let me become an independent individual. This is the reason conflicts begin. So parents need to be very careful about this age group and this belief system. Now I would like to talk about the major challenges. I am going to give you in brief so that you can ask me questions related to it. The major challenges which I have identified, of course there are many challenges, but which I have identified and which I would like to discuss and which are most relatable and common amongst parents is the first one is the most important one and most difficult to digest for parents is they have a need to be a perfect parent. I must be a perfect parent. I must either have all answers or I must either solve my child's all problems. They always are in this constant thing to prove that they are a perfect parent. For proving being a perfect parent, they will again go against their own child. They will go against their own child and prove them, no, you are wrong, I am right. But they will still try to be a perfect parent. That's why parents usually sacrifice unnecessarily, which is not needed. Because the more parent sacrifices, the more child becomes dependent. Parents need to understand this, how to change their perspective towards their child. The second one and the most difficult for parents to live with is guilt. Majority of the parents who come to us in our own practice are going through guilt. Not just mothers, even fathers. Fathers are really means today right now I'm seeing there are a lot of women here and the fathers don't tend to acknowledge their emotions. They will say मुझे कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है, but that's fine. When they come to me in my practice, in my counseling, they give me all the troubles they go through. And I have seen fathers cry also in front of me. So that's absolutely fine. Men take a little bit more time to acknowledge their emotions. But guilt is another negative emotion which majority parents go through. If they do not, so guilt is about मैंने मेरे बच्चे के लिए आईफोन नहीं खरीद सकता हूँ उसमें भी guilt हो जाता है. When the iPhone is actually so expensive, I cannot give my child video games. That is a feeling which is that is a guilt which parents live with. So it can be a very big event wherein actually the parent has done something wrong to the child, and it can be such trivial issues like आज मैं बाहर घुमाने लेकर नहीं गया. I didn't buy something for my child. I didn't get video games for my child. Anything can cause guilt, and majority parents are dominated by their teenagers because they are guilty. Understand? I will show you. I have seen children as young as 5-year-old and 6-year-old putting their parents into guilt mode and making them do whatever they want. So be very careful when you believe that my child doesn't know anything and my child is the most innocent. No. A child is given natural mechanism to fulfill their urges. They develop their own mechanism how to do it. So putting you into guilt is one factor they can use. The other part is guilt actually makes you a bad parent. Why a bad parent? Because the more guilty you feel, the more expectations you develop from your child. These are unwanted high standards which are set by parents because they are feeling guilty. They feel that I am putting so much efforts into this. I am sacrificing so much for my child. Why is my child not responding to it? Why is my child not reciprocating to it? Understand, this is an unnecessary high standards which you are developing, wherein your children can never match up to it. Your teenagers can never match up to it. That's why your guilt needs to be corrected first. The third one is again a problem which is related to your guilt, which I just mentioned, is you want to cultivate a perfect child. You want to cultivate a perfect child. I want to make my child the best child in this world. उसको मैं साइंटिस्ट भी बनाऊंगी, स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन भी बनाऊंगी, गिटार भी प्ले करेगा, वो मैथमेटिशियन भी बनेगा, एवरीथिंग. That's why children today are going in 4 or 5 classes unnecessarily. Everybody wants everyone. मुझे गिटार म्यूजिशियन भी चाहिए और स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन भी चाहिए और आर्टिस्ट भी चाहिए, एवरीथिंग. Why? Because your guilt is so strong. Arey, my God, if I do not make my child perfect, I am not a perfect parent. Then I need to work hard on making my child perfect. That's why first standard में भी हो, नहीं 90% तो चाहिए. थर्ड स्टैंडर्ड में आया, नहीं 90% तो चाहिए. बाय 9th स्टैंडर्ड दे आर सेइंग पास हो जाए तो चलेगा. So this is the dilemma parents go through. 9th स्टैंडर्ड आया, चलो पास हो गया ना, चलो अच्छा हो गया. This is what the condition goes through. Now, this is the challenge which you need to deal with at your end. Do not carry this guilt in you, because the more guilty you feel, the more perfect child you will want to create. Because parents cannot work on themselves. They will say, no, this is my project. I'm going to make my child such a perfect child, perfect individual, perfect independent person that nobody will be like him. And actually what is happening, the child is becoming a big problem for you. The next one is, I must always help my child. I'm going to go through this quickly. I must always help my child. We have got children, teenagers, maybe 12 years old, adolescents, who still cannot tie their shoelaces, and mothers still do that for them. We have 14-year-olds wherein the mother is still feeding the child, saying कि नहीं नहीं वो तो खुद से खाता ही नहीं है. There is one dialogue which I have seen constantly in our practice, and all my team members will agree to it. Mothers come and tell us very proudly, they feel extreme pride in saying that मेरा बच्चा तो मेरे बिना रह ही नहीं सकता. My child needs me constantly. मतलब उसका तो कुछ भी होता ही नहीं, चलता ही नहीं मेरे बिना. This is the dialogue which they so proudly say. मतलब अगर मैं नहीं हूं तो उसका existence खत्म. This is the worst kind of a thing which any mother can do for their child. Worst thing. Because you are creating a handicapped individual. You should not be proud. You should be actually worried that what are you creating. So this is what which you need to do. I must always help my child. Please don't help your child always. Don't create a handicapped person. Don't give them crutches forever. Don't become their crutches. They will always live like a handicapped person. Even if they are, so in this group, in the last 2-3 weeks, people have come and discussed, and people in their 60s, women in their 60s have discussed how they still miss their mothers. And a lot of people here know about them. Why does this happen? Because the mother's influence is so strong on an individual that they cannot get out of that need for security forever in their life. The next one is, my child must always listen to me. So this is a big dilemma, and this is actually the reason for conflicts. Now this simple dialogue, my child must always listen to me, doesn't come from everyday demands. कि मैंने बोला ना पढ़ाई करो तो सुनना चाहिए. No, it is not that. The belief system is, my child must need me. जब तक मेरे बच्चे को जरूरत नहीं है मेरा, I am not happy. That's why this my child must always listen to me. An irrational belief comes and practiced by parents. So this is a big challenge which you need to understand. So these are the irrational, unproductive belief systems which parents carry, and they reinforce it on their individual child, and somewhere they create problematic relationships. So as parents, you need to be aware of these things. There are some teenagers maybe here, and I would like to take some questions from them also. I would be more than happy to answer. But this is what you need to understand, how you are influencing your child, in what ways and in what age. Your child may be in any age between, and actually elder also, more than 21 years also. But over there also you need to understand how you are influencing your child or teenager or son or daughter. So I think I open the platform for everyone to ask questions. I hope you understood what kind of issues happen, and please ask me questions related to it or anything which you have experienced. I would be more than happy to discuss. I hope you understood a little. Sudhaji, I'm seeing you here the first time, I think. So what do you think about this? You are a mother? You are on mute, please. Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, hi Srimant, I'm Samita's mom.
Oh, so nice to see you.
Yeah.
So what would you say, Sudhaji?
So first session, so it's been a good...
I understood why she has sent you here. I think many of your many parents who are here today, they have been brought by your teenagers or children saying कि चलो चलो कुछ तो सुनो. So what would you say?
No, so it's good to be on the receiving side for once, you know.
Okay, I'm not giving you anything. It's not that I want to give left, right, center to parents. I'm just trying to help you understand that, because parents do a lot of things for their children. They sacrifice a lot of things. But when these kind of complications come, these kind of conflicts come, which are actually due to the belief system, then it causes a lot of problems.
Definitely.
So relationships are unnecessarily ruined, and whatever hard work you have done for so many years, even your child has done some hard work towards you to make you proud, to make you feel that, okay, I am a good child, I am a good son, I am a good daughter. All of these things are destroyed because of some belief systems. That's why I wanted to discuss this.
Yeah, I mean, that's an absolutely good topic to be taken up, and especially now during the COVID time, when there are certain issues which, you know, there is a constant conflict which happens as to how you deal with such things in such a
very true.
Tough time, actually. Yes. Not that you have a teenage child, but even when you have a grown-up child, how do you deal with it?
Very true, because actually we have met people who are in their 40s, but their parents still come to us and say, "Ki mera bachcha." So they still cannot let go of that control. They still cannot let go of that, need to be a perfect parent for them. And they want to solve. Actually, when we do marital counseling, in marital and couple therapy, when I work with couples, I need to always see how the parents are influencing their relationship. Because many a times couples go for divorce because there is a lot of parental interference. Unknowingly or knowingly, but parents feel that मेरे बच्चे को मैं ही सही कर सकती हूँ, and then they constantly have a fight, or they are in a power struggle with the daughter-in-law. And why I'm saying daughter-in-law, because the daughter, usually the wife, moves into the husband's house in Indian culture, and this is a conflict. So parents they find it very difficult to let go of their child. The child image which they have created in their mind, it's very difficult to let go, and that's why conflicts happen.
So Srimant, I'm having Ramesh with me here.
Yeah.
Yeah, Srimant.
Hi, Mr. Hello.
So both of us are here
today. You heard a lot. Good to see you, Srimant, today.
Thank you. Thank you. So would you like to ask something, Mr. Ramesh?
Yeah, so I have two questions, but maybe I'll ask the second one later on. My first question is, we at times see a challenge when can you be a parent and a friend to your child?
Can you be a parent and friend to a child? So actually a very good question. Now, you are always going to be a parent to your daughter. Even if your daughter is 70 years old, you will always be a parent. So there is no doubt that to be a parent or not. But you need to understand where you need to be a parent and where you need to be a friend. If you understand this differentiation, majority of the conflicts will go away. Now, when, as I said, when the person is developing or the person is their phase formative years, when they are developing their personality, that is the time actually parents need to change into the friend's role. Now, why this happens? Because this is a individuation process, I would say this, wherein the child is slowly trying to take decisions to understand, can I actually take decisions? But parents find it as arrogance. Parents find it as rebelliousness. They say, no, no, you're not asking me. Now, this is where the conflict begins. When you respond from a parent's role, then the child will always remain a child. If you respond from the friend's role, that allowing them to take their own decisions to a certain extent, of course, you cannot let go all the control because teenagers tend to get into the wrong company. But friendship begins here, wherein you understand that this person in front of me is not just a child, is not just my child, is an individual also. And this individual needs to grow as an individual plant, as an individual entity. If I always try and be a parent, there will be no individual existence, or that individual will take a lot of years to find that individual space. So many of us may go through that drill, they may go through that conflicts with the society to find their own identity. But that takes a long time and it happens with a lot of trial and error. If that freedom of choice comes from parents, it helps them develop and become more adults, a better adult. So this is the differentiation which you need to understand. Parent and friend. You will also understand when children come back to you. Usually they will go to the mothers. Even sons and daughters, both of them, usually when they are growing up, they will go to the mother to solve their issues. The permissions are taken from the father. This is the usually everywhere, all over the world, this is happens. Why? Mothers give the listening support, they give empathetic listening time to the child to express themselves. Now, this is the conflict which happens with fathers also. What fathers tend to feel that I am the best person to advise my child and avoid any mistakes in their life. But if you constantly feel like a parent and think like a parent, then you will not be able to help them actually make decisions. So fathers need to address their issues wherein you become a friend by asking them what they want to do and providing options as a friend. Instead of giving ultimatums, instead of giving ready-made solutions, ki ye karo, wo karo, that's done. So this is the change or shift which we need to create between parent role and the friend role.
But Srimant, would there be situations when you are talking to your child as a friend, but you hit a point where you have to then swing into the parent mode?
Yes.
And that swing has to happen at a certain point also it can happen. It might not even build up, but at a second point, which is a breaking point, you might swing from a friend to a parent.
Yeah, it does happen. It will happen. But when we talk about parent-child relationships, it should not be a one day or one event thing. It should be more about the culture. So, एक issue आपके पास आया and then you try and shift into the friend mode and then you find it difficult, that will not be possible. It's a culture which you need to develop as your child is growing up and you don't consider them as a child. Because this is the pattern happens when the child is actually 23-year-old and parents still complain, ये तो independent decision ही नहीं ले पाता. They have a complaint, ये तो इसमें तो confidence ही नहीं है. लोग देख तेरे friends देख क्या क्या कर रहे हैं, तू तो घर पे ही बैठा है. But understand, you have reinforced unknowingly this pattern in your child.
True.
Which happens because the parent role never goes away. As last meeting also I said, nothing grows under a banyan tree. If you are always a banyan tree, your child can never grow under it. The child needs to face the harsh sunlight, develop a tolerance towards it, and then grow as an independent individual. So वो अगर होगा तभी होगा when you know the balance between becoming a parent and a child. ऐसा है.
Thanks.
Thank you for asking that. Yeah.
Where do we we draw the line, Srimant, as to like what is the
There are clear demarcations. If the decision is risky for the child, or your child is taking something, a rash decision, even there you need to help them identify what they are doing wrong instead of telling them. So very clear demarcation would be changing from the instructions based to discussion. If you change it from instruction to discussion, you will go into the friend role. You can still discuss it or dispute their ideas. If they have wrong ideas, you can dispute those ideas still. But if you do it from the friend role, that will be much better, because that will help them grow. And understand, whenever you are in the parent mode, the child becomes rebellious. Whenever you are giving dictations or instructions or ultimatums, the child is always going to rebel. Because see, this is a natural mechanism which the individual is experiencing, because they have to become adult. If you do not allow it, they are going to struggle with it. They are going to fight for it. It's a natural mechanism. Otherwise, all of us can never become individuals, can never become independent. So instead of that, instructions, instead of direct instructions, instead of direct commands, ye karo, wo karo, you can go into question. If you want to become a friend, you can go into question and ask, what do you think is the right option? What other options do we have? What else can we do? It sounds and it opens up their mind also. Understand? And when you give instructions, the child may majority times not even tell you what is going on in their mind. But when actual discussions happen, you will actually get to know more of what is happening with your child, or how they think, or what they believe about different things. So ये थोड़ा सा आपको अगर shift कर सकें तो that will be the best. So for everyone, instruction to discussion. Thank you so much for asking that question.
Thanks, Srimant.
Thank you. Are there any teenagers? Are there any people who would like to ask something about their parents? That would be interesting. Anyone? That's fine. Anybody else? Yes, Barkha, please.
Audible now? Yeah. So very rightly you said that parents influence a child. So I am 25 and I still find that when my mother says something about, has her opinion, keeps her opinion, I tend to believe that yeah, she's right, I should go for it, even if I have another opinion. So how should I find a balance in between that? How should I have confidence in my opinion and go for what I thought, even if it comes out to be wrong in future, but it will be my opinion and my decision.
So there may be a thing wherein in your mind it is reinforced that your parents take the best decisions for you.
Yeah.
The other thing which may be reinforced is that you always take wrong decisions. Now you need to find out, actually have you taken wrong decisions, or you have never actually taken decisions. In both the scenarios, you will not develop a confidence to take any decisions. Now, how do we develop a confidence? Understand? When we say that I usually follow what my parents say, how do we actually develop confidence for anything in our life? We do something, we do one thing, we do second thing, we do third thing. Many of them may not work, or one of them may work. That one thing which works actually helps you understand the concept or understand what you want to do better. Now, if you do it repeatedly, you develop confidence. When you develop confidence, कि चलो, I have done this few times and now I think so I can take the right decisions, or I can do anything related to your work or related to your studies. Once you develop confidence, you can go into a belief system that I take the right decisions. Now, you may not have given an opportunity, or today you believe that I think it's my mother only takes best decisions, or you are finding an easy way out because unknowingly you are afraid of conflicts. You are afraid of facing challenges in your life, and you go back to your comfort zone with your mom. So even if you don't like the decision, you go with it because the conflict which you may have to have, the conflict which you will have to face in your life is much more troublesome than facing the wrong decision. So somewhere, Barkha, you need to learn to take small steps if you want to change this. As you are 25-year-old, now you may start your career full-fledged, you may get married, you may go abroad, anything. Everywhere you will have to take decisions. Our whole life is about choices, what choices we make. And our choices are based usually on our belief systems. Now, if we have wrong belief systems about ourselves, we have wrong ideas and concepts about ourselves, the choices which we make are also going to be problematic. And then when we make more wrong choices, it is reinforced in our mind कि यार मैं तो सब गलती करती. It's actually not that you do everything wrong. It's not possible that you can do everything wrong. As it is not possible that you will do everything right, it is also not possible that you will do everything wrong. But because our belief system directs our actions, you will always go for the wrong thing because of a belief system that I think I don't have the ability. So it would be best for you to get out of your mother's umbrella and find your own umbrella and go and face the rains, because that is the best thing which anybody of us do. Understand, your mother's value will always be there and her guidance will always be valuable. But dependency, and you need to differentiate between dependency and comfort. Sorry, dependency and security. That's what we need to differentiate between. Fine. I hope, Barkha, I answered your question.
Yes.
You will get out of it, don't worry. It's a process. It's a journey. There are people who are in their 40s and 50s still struggling to get out of their parents' security and comfort. It's a journey. Yes. I would like someone else to ask me a question.
We have a question on the chat box from Ms. Sanvi Singh.
Tanvi Singh.
Sanvi.
Sanvi. Sanvi, can I talk to you? This is a conversation with a psychotherapist. It would be great to talk to you. Where is she? I can't see.
Hi. Actually, this is Sanvi is my daughter. I'm her mother. My laptop does not seem to be working, so I'm using her laptop.
Okay. Yeah, Sanvi, please tell me something.
Okay, actually, my daughter's about 17, and I
Okay.
often find her lately very, very absorbed in her own world, very involved and happy with her friends, her own private space, her time, her room. I find it very difficult to communicate with her and get a positive response. It's always we get into an argument. I mean, I want to know, how do I start communicating better to involve her in more positive interactions? What behavior from my side could be triggering this kind of an attitude? What kind of changes do I need to make in my own responses?
Actually, nice. Thank you for that question, Sanvi. So as you said, your daughter is 17, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, this is the formative years, as I discussed in the beginning of this meeting. These are the formative years wherein she's trying to find an individual space for herself. Now, as soon as you need to understand, as soon as she tries to find an individual space, you feel as a left out mother. So don't feel bad. Every parent feels that my child doesn't need anymore, or my child doesn't even discuss anything about her life with me. That is a generic feeling which every parent would get. But the problem starts with the next step. Whenever teenagers try to separate themselves, parents tend to become overbearing. It's not that they want to control their child's life. It's just that they want more participation in their life.
Right.
I don't think so. Many a times it is about control. It is about that we are a family. We need to live like a family. And
Right.
I am your parent. And it's not necessarily that only children need parents. Parents also need children.
True.
Parents also need someone to talk to. Parents also need someone to share something, what they are going through. And I think many parents, I feel you also may have a very good rapport or had a very good rapport with your child.
Yes, extremely good.
That's good. So what happens, I feel that you are missing out on that. You're missing out on that bond which you had. and that's why you are trying too hard. Now, when you try too hard for your daughter, it comes across that you are trying to control my life. That is the reason the conflict begins. Even if you try to tell her that I'm not trying to control, we just want to have a chat, or we can just sit around or hang around with each other, she feels that you are intruding into her space.
Right.
Now understand, you want to participate, she takes it as intrusion. That is the reason for your conflicts. Now, how do you change this perception of her? You need to learn how to take your own space first. Many a times parents believe that all the solutions will happen only when I talk to my child. No. What you need to do is you need to find your own space away from the child. See, a parent-child relationship is always reciprocal. If the child goes away, the mother feels or the parent feels I am not important. Even if the parent goes away, the child feels I am not important. So it's a reciprocal relationship. So the more you try to participate, the more she will say that you are intruding into my life. Instead of that, try and take your own space first. Understand that you have a separate life than being a mother, being a wife, or being a daughter-in-law, whatever. You need to find your own space first.
Okay.
She will come back to you when she feels that I can come back to you, my mother, as a friend and not as a child. Because teenagers want to prove it to themselves. So understand, this is the age wherein self-esteem also develops. Now,
Okay.
if I'm always dependent on my mother, and if I always cry or have issues and I go to my mother, how will my self-esteem develop? So what happens? Teenagers want to force this belief onto themselves that I don't need my mother. It's actually not true. Every child needs their mother and father both. They just want to fight their self-esteem needs. So without going into their self-esteem, without showing them that you cannot survive without me, or you only come to me when you have issues, अगर वो आपने change कर दिया, I think that the chemistry between both of you will come back. Because today she doesn't want a parent, she wants a friend, because her self-esteem doesn't allow her to go to a parent. Understand? Because today teenagers say मुझे सब कुछ पता है. And not today, always. Even when I was a teenager, I would say मुझे सब कुछ पता है, आप मुझे बस बताओ.
Right.
Why does this happen? Why do we say this? Why do we say कि मुझे सब कुछ पता है, I know everything? Mom, you don't know anything. Mom ने पूरा दुनिया देखा है, but एक 16 साल का बच्चा बोलता है Mom, you don't know anything. Why? Because they are fighting their self-esteem needs internally. So without going into that space, without showing her that you cannot function without me, or you only come to me when you want to solve your problems, both the scenarios trigger her self-esteem issues.
Okay.
So get your space. I feel that you need to find your space first and then become a friend of hers. She should not be, so usually parents try and find what the child is going through as a troublesome days. So usually mothers become overbearing when the child is going through something difficult or sulking, or the child is too lonely. They believe that this is my time to get into that zone. This would be my time to get into the zone. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So there was some network issue. So usually parents, what they do, because they want to participate. So this is a funny thing. So take it a little humorously. Whenever they want to participate into the child's life, whenever the child is vulnerable. So as soon as the child is vulnerable or not talking to their friends or sitting in their room or crying, parents try to participate. चलो अभी मुझे मेरे daughter को मेरी ज़रूरत है. Let me go and find out what does she need, because they want to reinforce that bond. They want to reinforce कि नहीं, my child needs me and I need her. This is the wrong time to go and intrude into their life. Do not participate when only they have problems, because that is the worst time to get into their space. I'm saying space, psychological space or physical space. Why? Because they want to find their own identity. I will solve my problems on my own. I'm not going to ask or beg for help from anyone. I don't need anyone. When this belief system is going on in their mind that I don't need anyone, parents try to intrude and say, Nani, I will participate. I am here for you. I will solve your problem. I will do anything for you. Please come. Getting it? Are you there, Sanvi?
Yeah, yeah. Actually, no, I am not I'm not a, I mean, I'm a working parent. I
Yeah.
have been a working parent. So it's not that I intrude in her life.
You know?
Yes, yes, earlier it was far more interactive, but over just this year or so, I feel they're too absorbed and lost in their own world.
That's very true. That's very true because they are sitting in their rooms and exposed. They are being exposed to the global standards, which is not necessary.
Yeah.
So, if you want, I can give you a little perspective from your daughter's side also. So, what's happening today because of technology? Every teenager is exposed to such standards of anything, standards of living, standards of looking, how you look, standards of what you wear, everything. They are exposed to unwanted stimulus. Earlier, people would compare themselves to a radius of people of 2 kilometers around their life. My school friends, my college friends, my area friends, my building friends.
Yeah.
Today, people are sitting online and comparing themselves to a teenager who is sitting in US, and they believe, "Arey, how am I not living like them?" Now, this creates self-esteem issues. This creates identity issues in every individual, and this happens with not just teenagers. It happens with adults also. Teenagers, it happens very strongly because they are already finding themselves. They haven't found themselves yet. So for them, it's more difficult. So this exposure actually has created self-esteem issues more than confidence. The confidence which teenagers today show is actually a defense mechanism to hide their flaws. They will talk in a certain way, they will be arrogant, they will be very rude or detached. But these are all mechanisms, defense mechanisms which they have activated and learned. So for some times you need to empathize with where your daughter is coming from, what is happening with her. She may be going through her developmental issues, she may be going through her self-esteem issues. But you can participate only when she allows you right now. So you need to wait for that space, you need to wait for that window to open. Because as soon as you try to enter and participate, it will be taken as intrusion. Okay? Also understand this is not going to happen in a single day. There is one, so today you talk to me and then tomorrow you go and try it. No. You need to bring this as a culture. As you said, you are a working woman, so you may get a very less time or less period to spend with your daughter. So
And,
develop, yeah,
I mean, because one is involved with work and I mean, a lot, one is
yeah,
not impinging on their freedom at all, you know. We have discussions or whatever. So I'm not a very overbearing parent or trying to impose my view.
yeah. That's
However, I suddenly over the last year or so, I feel that they've sort of just sort of recoiled into their own world.
as I said, this is a difficult phase for anyone. This is actually the most vulnerable. These are the most vulnerable years for anyone. So you also may be teenager, you were a teenager and you went through this phase, and everybody goes through this phase. This is a phase of finding yourself, and that's why it is the most difficult phase for a parent also and for a child also. It's actually difficult for both of them. If you see all over the world, the major issues which happen with people actually happen in their teen years. People become drug addicts, people try with substances. All of these things happen during these years also. So research says almost 70 to 80% of the people who get into drugs get into this age group. Why does this happen? Because there is a lot of internal conflict going on, and when teenagers don't find an answer and or don't find better coping mechanisms, they get into this kind of stuff. So be empathetic towards her right now. This is your opportunity, and don't feel that she's going away or she's not needing you. She needs you for sure. You also have a good bond. It's just that you need to find that window where you enter and become her friend again. That space has to be developed.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for asking that question. I didn't get your name, please.
I'm Disha Singh.
Yeah, Disha Singh. Okay. Thank you for asking that question.
Thank you.
So I hope others are also understanding that how teenagers go through issues and challenges. and they seem to be an issue with the parent. Parents perceive it as ki there is some problem with me only. That's why my child is not talking to me, or my child doesn't need me. It's not actually an issue only with the parent. Of course, I would say almost 10 or 15% only is there an issue with the parent. The other 70-80%, the child, the teenager is facing from outer world, because they are trying to find their space in the world. They are trying to find an identity in the world. And that is a major conflict in these years. Of course, unless there is major issue with the parent, which happens in many families, but it's usually not about you. Don't take it as, "Okay, I'm doing something wrong." It's not always about you. So anyone else would like to ask me a question, please? I would be
Can
more.
can I ask?
Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Tanvi.
Yeah, hi.
So I have other moms here. So on this platform, I wanted to ask you and other moms that my daughter, she's 14-year-old, and somehow she challenges everything that is culture related to me. So I come from a Gujarati Jain background, and everything, if you try to give them culture or you try to give them ethics, everything is a challenge. Everything is why, and everything is why should I do it? Everything is, this is meant for old people. Matlab, you all did it 20 years back. This is not meant for my generation.
Yeah, and
And coming from a joint family, it's so difficult to maintain a balance between your parents and your kids.
very true, very true. So you are facing these challenges wherein your daughter is refusing, or not even, let's say, not refusing, but questioning everything.
Everything is like why? Like, she's like, everything is old, it's not meant for my new generation types.
Okay, can you tell me some specific incident?
So being a Gen is Gen, so something from food habits, something from why do you go to the temple habits, or we in my in my house, the 3 days in a month you don't touch around anywhere. So
Yeah, yeah.
that question, but the only thing is I have to restrain her for going and fighting with my mom.
Hmm.
She's ready to go and argue with my mom too, like if Nani made all these rules, I don't need to follow them, even
Wow.
after giving her reasonable explanations.
Hmm.
But somehow when it comes to cultural background, I find it very, very difficult to get through to her.
Okay, I understand. So this is actually a good question, and also it's because culture is such thing that it's in our blood, and we want to give it to our children. We want to transfer it to our children, and that's why it becomes more difficult for parents to say, "Ki, "Arey, if not this, then what?" When children start questioning it. So it's a good thing. It's a good question. Whenever we try to introduce someone into a culture, or introduce into, so culture is actually a belief system, understand?
Correct.
Whatever we follow, religious beliefs, cultural beliefs, or rituals, these are belief systems. Now if you want to introduce your child, your daughter, into these belief systems, there are two ways. One, which usually parents follow, हम करते हैं इसलिए तुमको करना
ये तो ये जनरेशन समझती ही नहीं है.
है. Exactly, very true. Now why this happens? So this is a challenge. Why? Because now, as you, when you were a teenager, understand, Tanvi, you were not exposed to global standards. Okay,
Mhm.
you may have lived, you may have gone to a school wherein there was a majority of Gujaratis. You may have gone to weddings where it was majority time Gujarati weddings, or you may have means, interacted with people who are from your same community. So what happens? It becomes a accepted fact कि सभी ऐसे हैं इसीलिए मैं ऐसी हूँ. Now the thing has changed. Now children, teenagers are comparing, as I mentioned earlier, teenagers are comparing themselves to different kind of cultures, different kind of belief systems, different kind of ideologies. So they try to find what works for them. Earlier, it was very easy to follow something because everyone is doing, I am doing it. I don't know any other way. Today, there are so many people introducing belief systems to a teenager that teenager has so many options to take. Now, when there are so many options to take, the easiest one looks much more attractive than the most difficult. Not following religious beliefs or not following, so like as you said, you are a Jain, so there are a lot of eating habits, very specific, strict eating rules in your culture. Now, not following them looks very attractive. Understand? Because they are introduced to a lot of belief systems which are absolutely against or contradictory or very different from your culture. The second thing is, as I am a teenager, I want to do something different from everyone else.
True.
Unless I do something different from everyone else, how do I stand out? तो फिर लोग क्या कहेंगे, मतलब ये सब करते हैं वही मैं करूंगी तो फिर मेरा क्या स्टैंडिंग है? This is a thought process which teenagers go through, and everyone, you also as a teenager went through, but your exposure to the outer world was very limited. Today's exposure is absolutely unlimited, and I think unnecessary also to a certain extent. Now, this is where teenagers say, okay, if I don't do something different, then what am I doing? Understand? So going against something, being arrogant about something, or being rebellious is actually a fashion statement. It's a cultural statement which teenagers want to make. Now, how do you get her into this? First of all, I would suggest that you understand and discuss this with her, why these religious beliefs are working for you and your family. Because I am not a Jain. So you will be the best person and your family will be the best person. Why it works for you. But not as an instruction, but as a logical discussion. See, Jainism has a lot of logical base behind what they are doing. The reason for not eating specific vegetables or uh, fasting during some months, which Hindu culture also does, there is some logic. If you want to truly discuss it with your daughter, discuss it at a logical level instead of an instructional level. कि हमारी फैमिली करती है इसीलिए तुमको करना है. Ultimatums don't work with teenagers. And understand, anyways, you don't want a person who is functioning mentally as a donkey. I would suggest that actually you should appreciate to a certain extent that your daughter is questioning some belief systems, because when you start questioning belief systems, it's actually a sign of good intelligence. When you do not accept beliefs readily as they are, that means you are thinking logically. But of course it goes into arrogance, I understand that also. But you need to take it as a logical discussion with her, wherein you make her understand why are you following so and so things.
Okay.
Once it becomes a logical discussion, she will not give you emotional reactions to your actions or to your advances. She will not give emotional reactions to your advances, wherein she is saying, I will do whatever I want. This is for your old people. This is all nonsense. ये सब emotional reactions दे रही है वो आपको. So to avoid that, get her into a logical discussion of it. And still, I would suggest one thing before sitting with her to make it a logical discussion. You also question this. You also measure it out for yourself that how much actually you want your daughter to follow these rituals and religious beliefs. And what if she takes a little diversion or she takes a little liberty with it? Would that be a wrong thing, or would that be a really bad thing for her? Try and measure it at your end first and then sit and discuss it logically. Today, when you try and give ultimatums to teenagers, it doesn't work because there is a lot of confusion in teenagers' minds, because there are a lot of options available. Their options confuse you, and when you do not know what to make a choice, you make a bhel puri. You take a little from here, you take a little from here, you mix it, and you alter it according to your comfort level. So to divert all these complications, make it a logical discussion. Actually sit across with your daughter and talk about it, because understand, she is 14. Now she's grown up and she's growing. So in the next few years, you are going to get more questions. If you start trying to dominate her ideology by ultimatums or by instructions or by saying, because your mother has said, you follow it, that will not work, because it will be unnecessarily reason for conflicts. And I don't think you don't want to spoil this healthy relationship which you have with your daughter, right?
Correct.
So take it as a logical stand. Understand that she is questioning things and it is a good thing. You need to think like a woman also, because there are a lot of belief systems which are forced onto women, and it has been happening for so many years. But few people had the guts to question it. These few people actually changed the culture for the better of women. औरतें काम नहीं कर सकती, ये बिलीफ सिस्टम वुमेन के ऊपर बहुत सालों से फोर्स किया गया था, and everybody lived according to that belief system. Nobody questioned it, but few people took the guts of actually questioning it and changing it. So if your daughter is showing that ability, appreciate that first, because appreciation will create some kind of value in her mind, and that will actually help her sit across with you and talk to you. Getting
Got
it?
it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for asking that question, and I am sure your question is very relatable to other parents also here. And teenagers do say, okay, I know everything, you don't know, this is for your age group, this is for you old people. But don't take it personally, because she is experiencing the world the first time. You have seen the world completely and you know what is right and wrong. She is just exploring. So exploring stage is usually problematic.
Got that.
Thank you so much, Tanviji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, I've been asked a question, and this person would like their name to not be mentioned, and they request to be anonymous. So their question is, what if a parent is making the child feel unsafe, be it physically, mentally, or financially?
What if a parent is making their child feel unsafe?
Feel unsafe, yes.
Now the parent is asking this question.
Yes, I presume.
So then, because we have to look at from both the ends. If the child is asking something, a question from their perspective about their parent, we need to answer it differently. So let's say that the parent is asking this question.
Sorry to interrupt. I think it is a child asking from their perspective, because it says, what if a parent is making them feel unsafe?
Yeah, exactly. You don't know,
Yeah.
but I will try and answer it. Let's say I will try and answer it from the parents' perspective first, because I feel many parents are here. Yeah.
This message saying, I'm the child.
Okay, good. Thank you for clarifying that. So let's take the child's perspective. If you feel that your parent, your father, mother, anyone in your family who is in the parental role is making you feel unsafe financially, Siddhi, what was the question?
Be it physically, mentally, or financially unsafe.
Okay. So now how do you handle this? Now, if it is physically, one thing is a big problem. If they are making you feel unsafe, there is some problem happening at your home, which needs to be addressed immediately. The second one is financially and emotionally or mentally. There may be some issues which your parents are going through, which are actually projected on you. What happens with parents' issue when there are some issues at home, which we see in many couple counseling sessions, we see in family counseling sessions. There are some major issues a couple is going through, but when they are not able to address it, they project those issues onto the child. So many a times when couples come to me as parents, so understand, when couples come to me as parents and say that my child is not doing well in the studies and they have a lot of complaints about the child, I always address their couple issues first. Why do we do that? Because there are a lot of issues which are projected onto the child, which are actually problems of the family, which are actually problems of the couple. What we call is triangulation. This is a technical term which we call it as triangulation, wherein in a triangle there are two parents at one end and the child is at the third end. Both the parents influence the child in such a way that they want to resolve their issues through the child. Now you need to find out, whoever has asked this question, you need to find out, are you stuck in this triangle? Are there a lot of conflicts which your parents are going through, or as a family there are a lot of conflicts and issues and they are projected at you? The second point, you need to also understand that, are you going into a power struggle with your parent? So I'm now answering your question from your perspective. If you are going into a power struggle with your parent is responding to it and reciprocating to it. Many a times children, what they do, they challenge their parents in the wrong way. Because they want to satisfy their ego, they will challenge their parents in a very wrong way. I have heard parents come and complain to us, teenagers making them feel useless and shameful when they say कि आप इतना सा चीज खरीद नहीं सकते, you can't buy this stuff for me. And it's a value judgment question. It's not a complaint. It's a judgmental question. So if you as a child are becoming judgmental towards your parents, wherein you're challenging their authority, one, or challenging what they have done for you, then these are the reasons for your conflict. Or as you are saying that there are financial issues also and making you feel unsafe financially also, it may be a reason again for a power struggle. Now, keeping aside the logic that they do not have the means to fulfill your needs, let's expect, or let's take it in granted. I'm taking it granted for a minute that they have the means to fulfill your needs and they have the means to provide for you. If still there is a conflict and they are trying to hold back to giving it to you, you need to find an independent identity in the space that if they do not decide to give it to you forever, you need to find your own space. If you always get into this conflict, this unending conflict, never ending conflict, that I will demand and my parents have to fulfill, and your parents are saying that you try and demand, we will never fulfill it, whatever happens. This is a perpetuity question which parents and children fall into. There is no answer to this question. Both are demanding power, both are demanding authority, and the argument never ends. So if you have fallen into this trap, get out of it. Now, how do you get out? You need to find out answers for yourself. What you can do without their support, one thing. The second thing is, if you can end the power struggle, that will be the best thing, because understand they are your parents. That somewhere, of course, there are some very few typical bad parents who want to create problems for their children. The number is very less, the percentage is very less, but still there are. We have experienced clients who are parents are really actually having wrong intentions about their children, but that percentage is very less. So if your parents fall into that category, still understand that they will not let you grow as an individual, and you need to find your own space. You need to create a different identity out of this problem, because you will destroy your precious years in this conflict. You will destroy your identity in this conflict, and you will create a very negative perspective towards the world, because what parents give you, parents are an introduction to the world. When parents are such, wherein they are giving you negativity, you start believing that the whole world is like this. So don't fall into this trap. Get out of the power struggle. If you can solve the issues with a discussion, that will be well and good. If you cannot solve, there are some issues in this world which you cannot solve. There are some children we have met, there are some adults also we have met, who have parents who have mental disorders. Now they cannot work out anything. Their parents are so difficult to handle. Even there, we mention them that you need to understand what are your limits. There is a certain limit where you can correct things, and there are some things which you can never correct. So don't fall into the trap of correcting everything. Find your space, find what you can do, and change your life for the better. Fine.
They've just written back saying that it's not a power struggle. I'm trying to help my parent. I feel the parent has taken it for granted and is thus making me feel unsafe. And it is difficult to talk to the parent directly about this, since I understand their troubles too, and I want to keep helping.
So now you are trying to live a different life. You are trying to create an image of a perfect son or perfect daughter. Parents have this belief that I want to become the perfect parent. Now you are feeling that I want to become the perfect child. Now this is a never ending question for you again, because what is perfection? You can never find out a perfect thing. And I'm sure the more you try, the more critical your parents may be, or your parents are not allowing you to help them in the right way. Again, the same question arises: how many things are in your control? How much can you actually do? If your actions are driven by guilt, if your actions are driven by frustration, you have fallen into a trap. Let me tell you very clearly. Because guilt and frustration will never end because you are trying everything and your parents are not supporting or reciprocating it. So don't fall into this trap. You need to understand कि मेरे हाथ में क्या है, what I can do, what I cannot do. I can provide for my parents, I can support them, I can give them love and affection, I can give them attention. Can I change them as individuals? No. Can I change their life? No. Can I change the whole family's life? No. So there are some limitations because as soon as there are many people involved in an equation, everyone needs to take responsibility. You alone cannot take responsibility and correct it. Unless your parents are ready to take responsibility of correcting the issues, you cannot help them. So don't go into that. It's a waste of time. Let me tell you honestly, and I'm being very blunt. It's a waste of time. Don't go due to your guilt. So find your own space. Thank you for asking that question. It's a difficult space to be in. It's a difficult thing to solve. But don't let your actions directed by guilt. That's what I would say. Try and avoid the guilt part. Yes. Thank you so much for that question. And I can take one more question if you want.
Shrimant, I have another question.
Yes, please.
So, Shrimant, this is a conflict that arises between a parental instinct and logic. Okay, so there are situations where, because of parental instinct, there is a thought that the parent has, saying that this situation should be dealt with this way, or this can be done, this should not be done, and so on. And the child will be coming from a logical perspective. Yeah. The parent will also completely understand that logically the child is right. And there will be a point where the parent will not be able to argue further. And then the parent has to just put the foot down and take a position. Right?
Yeah. So put the foot down and take the against decision.
The position favoring the parental instinct.
Okay.
Right? So that could be because of experiences, instinct, whatever is it.
Yeah.
This sends out a wrong signal to the child because you have been discussing logically for some time. You try to do it logically for some time.
Yes.
And then you realize that you run out of logic because the child's logic is better. Yeah. And then you put your foot down and you show your authority.
Okay. So I will have to support the teenagers first. If the logic is right, you need to support it.
Yeah, I agree.
With many parents will not like my answer. Now, what do you do? How do you avoid a conflict? Is that your question?
No. So your parental instincts. Let's take an example, and it could be as simple as you're staying in a locality and you want the child to come back home by 10:30. Right now, this is an instinct, and you feel unsafe. Right? There is no logic to it. Yeah. The child will have all the logic saying how I'm going to be safe, who is going to drop me, how I will come, etc., etc. Right?
Very true.
Now this discussion can happen where you will try to show the world, etc., etc., at some point of time, but somewhere you will say no, this is what it is. So this is an example I'm giving where an instinct overpowers logic.
Very true. Very nice. So actually, very true that you said that there are some instances that you cannot allow it to happen. And with teenagers, I'm sure there are many instances. So they will give you a logic for everything. We have 13-year-old clients who sit and give us logic. Okay, आप ऐसे करो, आप वैसे करो. They give us logic and we say, okay. We have to address their logic. We have to acknowledge their logic. Now, this is a very actually good question. So there is some action. There is a reaction. Okay. There is a constant reciprocation of action, reaction, action, reaction. Now you are saying, when I am trying to act in a logical way, but my parental instincts say that this is not right. And the reaction comes which is against it. There is one more part which we never consider and which we actually never expose to our child. That is our intention. First comes intention, then comes action. Action can be verbal, physical, psychological, financial, anything. First comes intention, then comes action, and then it is followed by reaction. This is a 3-part process. We always look at 2-part process, action, reaction. The third part is the intention, which many a times parents, due to some or the other reason, are not able to communicate, or they don't want to communicate. I don't want to show I love my child. Why should I say that I'm worried for your safety? They will say, I told you now, this is the time, because I know it's right. What this is action, reaction, reciprocation. If you try and communicate your intention, the true intention, it can be a logical intention, it can be an emotional intention. Now, the example which you gave, it's very simple that the parent is worried about the child's safety. But this intention is actually never communicated to the child. The child receives a different signal. When the intention is not communicated, the action is shown. The child reacts to it, but the child is receiving the signal in a different way. What is the child receiving the signal as? My parents want to control me. My parents never allow me to do anything. So there is a miscommunication. But the miscommunication doesn't happen in action and reaction. The miscommunication happens between the intention and the signal which reaches the child or the other person. So if you clear the intention behind all your actions, understand, it's much more easier for the child to understand. It's very easy. It's very open. Why am I not giving you money? Because I feel if I give you money, you will misuse it and you will never learn the value of money. How simple is this? It's a very clear intention which parents want to teach their child, because you will learn wrong habits because of excess money, right? How is it usually communicated? पैसे झाड़ पे नहीं लगते. It is communicated as पैसे झाड़ पे नहीं लगते. हाँ, आपको कितना भी दो, आप खर्चा ही करने वाले हो. There is nothing, never enough for you. Now, it's a very simple thing. The wrong intention is given to the child, and then the child is saying, मेरे parents तो मुझे judge करते रहते. Yes, please, you are saying something.
So, Srimad, I get the point. The question is, the intentions are known. The child also understands the intention, but it is conflicting with the child's priority at that point of time.
So you mean to say it is conflicting with their urges?
Yeah. So the intention is known, child agrees, accepts the intention, but the urges are far more overpowering.
Yeah.
And then there is a logic coming to say that your intentions are unwarranted, don't worry about it.
Again, you need to create a culture of communicating the intention. There are many times wherein you, even if you communicate the intention, the child will say, okay, I'm not going to listen to your intention, even if it's right. There you definitely take a stand. You take a stand, but your intentions have to be cleared first. Also, the next step, once you communicate your intentions, you also need to change your actions according to your intentions. Parents have the best intentions in their mind when it comes to children, but their actions are very rude, dominating, or controlling. If the intentions and actions do not match, the reactions will never match. So there is one step, of course, it's a loop. Action, reaction is a loop. So you need to understand that the first intention when you communicate, this is the positive action which you take. Then you may receive a negative reaction. But the next action which you take should be again related to your intention. If you keep reinforcing your intention on your child's mind, and if you make them really understand that this is actually my intention, there is no other intention, and I'm not going to allow you because I know that this is going to work badly for you. If you communicate it in the right way, in a logical way, they will not give you an emotional reaction. Usually, conflicts happen because of emotional actions and emotional reactions. If you can avoid that with the right intentions, half the battle is won. Understand, then your child or teenager is just arguing for the sake of it. Because once they get the logic behind your intention, once they understand your intention, half their aggression is mellowed down. Then they may want to just follow their urges and they say, "Arey, mere friends hai, I will miss out on partying with my friends," and all of these things. The next actions should be supportive actions, because dealing with that deprivation of any kind of pleasure is difficult to digest.
Right.
Any kind of pleasure, it can be watching TV, partying with friends, or going on a drive or anything. Any kind of deprivation is difficult to digest for anyone. So the soothing part has to follow immediately. इंटेंशन राइट है, उसके बाद सूदिंग पार्ट अगर आप करेंगे सही से, देन द digestion of this idea becomes easier for the child. But I will tell you, many a times it is about the intention part. The intention is never communicated in the right way to many people. And I would suggest, I will tell you this, the same technique we use with couples also. Couples come to me and fight like cats and dogs. Only and only if I clarify the intention behind what they are saying, the fight finishes at that moment itself. It's the best way to communicate. If you give your intention, of course, you need to have the right intentions. Many parents want to say, मैंने बोला इसलिए करना है, बस what you, I want to enjoy that authority on my child. वो नहीं हो सकता. तो intention right होना चाहिए. Intention communicate कीजिए. Follow it with a soothing action. That action has to heal the deprivation. If that is corrected, I think even though your teenager will, show frustration and kick their legs and all, but they will accept your idea. So that is again, nothing happens in a day. Don't try tomorrow and say it failed. My child walked out on me and said कि आपको जो करना है कर लो. So that may also happen. It's a culture you need to create. It's a culture. The communication style is a culture which you need to create from today, and in the next 1 week, 10 days, 15 days, 1 month, your child will start responding rightly, correctly to your intentions, and conflicts will reduce. I will tell you very honestly, if couples can solve their conflicts just by clarifying their intentions, parent and child can clarify it very easily, because the emotional bond is much stronger. Right?
Thanks.
Thank you so much for asking that. I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
I hope you are satisfied with my answer.
Yeah. The second part was definitely the soothing action part of it.
Yes,
That's where the missing part.
We miss out on that. We miss out on that. That is the main part. Usually teenagers would like to listen to intentions, clarify the intentions, because they feel like an adult. See, understand? They don't feel like a child anymore. When you give your intentions, they say, okay, I can look at it logically. But when you say, okay, I have told you and that's why you need to do, then they say, okay, now I'm going to fight this because I'm not a child anymore. So actually parents, by taking the wrong actions, trigger the rebelliousness in their children. The rebelliousness is actually triggered by parents' actions first. Then it becomes a practice, then it becomes a pattern, and then we feel that my child is always rebellious. No, the intentions are never communicated well. We have dealt with, I will tell you very honestly, I will share a case study here. So we had a 15-year-old client coming to us, an only child. The parents had him late. Actually, means the first child expired within, I think, 6 months or something. And this boy was born after 11 years gap. So the parents were trying for 11 years. They couldn't be successful and all. And after 11 years, this boy was born. Big family. I will give you a little background also. Business family. Jain Gujarati family, and good business family, well-to-do, everything is fulfilled, but missing out on the child part. So 11 years they struggled with this. Now when they came to us, this child was so aggressive towards their parents, you will not believe. So they would dictate everything in the house, everything. And we were also shocked that why is this child so aggressive? They would do everything. They would order food, they would watch TV, whatever he wants. If he wants them out of the bedroom, they will walk out. If he wants out of the living room, they will walk out. It was that difficult for them. The father was scared, I would use the word scared, frightened to talk to his son. And it would actually look like it's the reverse role. So what we call in transactional analysis, the role reversal had already happened, wherein the 15-year-old boy was the father and the father had become the child. Now in this scenario, they came and they said that we cannot do anything, we don't know what to do. The first thing we said that we are not going to counsel your son, we are going to counsel you first. And they were shocked. अरे हमको क्या counseling का जरूरत है? So this is what parents need to understand. What you are sending, what signal you are sending to your child, you need to understand that. Now these parents were obviously, as you all are parents, you must have understood already what was happening over there. Extremely giving parents. They were extremely guilty parents. If they would not be able to give, they would feel that we are bad parents. extremely insecure parents, because they had already lost a son. Getting this son after 11 years, their insecurity was transferred or projected onto the child. Okay, this boy is answer to my all my sorrows. When you start believing this boy is answer to all my sorrows, then you give him everything what he wants. And then the son believes that I am the center of the universe. Why should not my parents work according to my wishes? The first thing we change is the signals which they were giving. So first 15 or 20 days or 1 month, we only gave them a list of things which you will not do for your son. He was 15 and his father would sit in the clinic and tie his shoelaces. I think they may be in this group right now also. It's absolutely fine. But the parent would sit, the father would sit and tie a 15-year-old shoelaces. Why? Because the son has told him. Now, when the child believes that I am the center of the universe, then there is the end of the world. Then you are all slaves to them. So what parents need to do is, so we started with deprivation first. We told the parent that this is a list of things which you will not do for your son. And they said he will burn down the house. Yeah, they actually said, okay, we will not be able to survive. We will leave him at home and we'll go to our village, and only then we will be able to do this. They changed this pattern for a month. They faced a lot of conflict. They faced a lot of challenges. Only once the deprivation was done, when the son started learning that, okay, the universe doesn't function according to my wishes, the world doesn't function according to my wishes, when this idea took birth in his mind, only then the counseling started. In the counseling part, all the things which we did is we clarified the parents' intention towards the child. Everything which for what we deprived the child of, we gave him a reason. We gave him a reason why you are not allowed mobile. We gave him a reason what are the bad effects of mobile, what are the side effects of using too much screens. Everything was given to him. As more and more intentions were clarified, more and more the child became open to suggestions, open to new options. But the deprivation has to happen because the intention has to be communicated in the right way to the child. And then the soothing process has to also reinforced. So we used all the things which he liked as actually as awards and rewards for his actions. So that became, so this we call very simply, it's called behavioral modification, which we do with many clients of ours. But simply put, the intentions were clarified and the soothing experience which needs to be reinforced on the child was done properly. That is done. I will tell you, within 3 months, they couldn't believe how he has changed. All his family members called us and told us we cannot believe the way he has changed. Because he was argumentative towards everyone. All the adults were afraid of him. Because he would talk in such a way, I am the center of universe. How are you denying me anything? Right? So I think so I will discuss it later. Yes, Ruchika, you want to say something? No.
So we have 2 more questions that have been sent to me on the chat.
I think we will have to take it next time because it's already 8:10. And what are the questions?
So the mother would not like me to say her name because her daughter is around and she doesn't want her to hear. But my daughter has a tendency to put on weight, and her weight issues are harmful to her self-esteem and her health. She wants to reduce but does not want to do anything about it. From talking politely about the issue to sometimes getting overtly worried when I try to talk to her, she gets very, very upset and reacts negatively. She knows her weight is not good for her but does not want to do much about it.
How old is she? Daughter is? Did you mention?
I think 17.
Okay. So she is putting on weight. She is not able to understand what are the side effects, what are the bad effects of it. And she is also not able to change it. Now, this is a clear challenge of self-esteem. When the person experiences failure a lot, the person believes that I cannot do it. When the person accepts this belief that I cannot do it, the person goes into inferiority complex. Okay, I do not have the ability. When the person goes into inferiority complex, the person believes that that I am so inferior because I cannot fight my situation, I cannot change my situation, and I cannot even accept my situation. This inferiority complex triggers helplessness. When you are saying that your daughter is not even ready to change, she has already reached the stage of helplessness. In this helpless state, if you demand anything, is going to come as a problem for your daughter. Helplessness leads to complete acceptance of hopelessness. Okay, nothing can be done. Whatever I do, I cannot lose weight. Even if I lose weight, people are not going to like me. And what is the point of losing weight when people do not like? Understand? So this is a cycle which we call redundant cycle, which is going on in your daughter's mind. Now this cycle cannot be broken unless she is given very strong either counseling or either support system by anyone. So it can be a trainer, it can be a psychotherapist, or it can be a nutritionist who will guide her in the right way. But when she's stuck in the cycle, it's difficult to get out of it. This is what we call redundant cycle. अगर आपने ये cycle break नहीं किया, तो it can be many years she cannot get out of this. Obese people stay obese because of their belief systems. Many people who are trying to lose weight, they will go and buy a burger as soon as they are emotionally disturbed. There is one fight and they will go and eat the same nonsense which is absolutely against them. Why does this happen? Because of their belief systems, because of your emotional reactions to things. Now your daughter is giving a lot of emotional reaction. She is already in the process of an emotional reaction, which is a long cycle which she is going through. And it is all emotional complications combined with belief systems, irrational belief systems. If you want to change your daughter's life, and if the daughter is here and she wants to change this, she needs to fight the belief system that I cannot do it. Only when she fights that belief system that I cannot do it, her emotions will change. Positive emotions are motivation. The motivation will come only when she will believe that I can do this. The other thing, as a parent, what you need to avoid is, you need to avoid very strictly any kind of criticism. Usually what happens, if you see with teenagers also, or with very young children also, parents tend to hurt them with criticism. Parents will say the nastiest of the things and believe that my child will be motivated by this. So many a times parents will say this, मेरे बच्चे को तो अकल ही नहीं है, in front of many people, in front of others. What is their intention? कि मैं अगर इसको criticize करूँगा, then he will get angry and he will do something else, which is against this belief system. No. If you reinforce this belief system and this idea on them repeatedly, they are going to actually believe into it. So when you are actually trying to criticize her so that she gets motivated, the criticism which she receives is actually received as an attack on her self-esteem. Understand? That attack on her self-esteem reinforces the belief that I cannot do it. Why I cannot do it? See, my mother also thinks that I cannot do it. Why should I do it? My friends think I cannot do it. Why should I do it? And what's the point of doing it when nobody likes me? How this is reinforced again and again from different avenues, from different people, and it becomes a problem for the person. So try and understand that criticism is not going to work right now. You need to acknowledge that this is a problem, sitting across with her. Not acknowledge you as a parent that this is a problem. Acknowledge that this is a problem for us, because I can see you going through challenges, and don't acknowledge or don't address the challenges she may face after 2 years or 5 years or 10 years. कि तुझसे शादी कौन करेगा, तेरा बॉयफ्रेंड कौन बनेगा, तेरा हेल्थ इश्यूज कैसे होगा. No. Acknowledge it as a problem today. Try and acknowledge what your daughter is going through emotionally because of her weight issues. पहले वो आप acknowledge कीजिए. Don't acknowledge, don't sit and tell her what problems she may face in the future. No, she's not interested in that, because that has already become a burden on her. That's why she's not able to move out of her life, move out of her situation. So What you need to do is acknowledge the issues today. What your daughter is going through. She is going through the belief system that I cannot do it. She is going through the emotion that I am helpless. She is going through the emotion of inferiority complex. If you acknowledge those things, only then she will be motivated to change anything. Help her out with today's issues, not what issues she may face later on. She doesn't need that right. I hope I answered your question. It's difficult, but break this cycle. If you break the cycle, if you just get her this belief system that you can do it, you need to reinforce it again and again by saying it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I know you can do it. I believe you can do it. If you reinforce this belief system in her, that belief system will be reinforced and she will actually start believing, okay, there is some hope. That hopelessness will go away. Only then she will be motivated. I hope I answered your question. And thank you for that question.
Yes, so she says that you were able to answer her question.
Thank you so much. So I hope all of you got a little understanding into this and got a picture of what happens between parent and child.
So we have 2 more questions.
It's 8:20, so I will take these questions next week. I can take the questions in the beginning of the session itself, and then we will move on with the
Yeah.
other questions.
So one question is from Mr. Sandeep Bothra, so I'm sure he'll join us next week. And the other one is by Jasmine Sheth. She just wants some examples of some soothing processes that you had mentioned, and she said that if you do it in the next session, it's okay.
Yeah, we will do it. But in short, if I tell you soothing processes doesn't mean that you give them something or anything. It's deprivation already. The soothing process comes with an emotional support. That, okay, I acknowledge that you are very upset because I deprived you of something, deprivation of money, deprivation of the freedom to go out, anything. You need to acknowledge the deprivation also. As soon as you give them the intention, acknowledge that this deprivation has caused some kind of discomfort in you. When you acknowledge it, children understand, your daughter, your son will understand that, okay, my parent understands me completely. She also knows I am upset, but I can understand that she has the right intentions in her mind. So this is a soothing process. Soothing process is an emotional process. Acknowledgement of negative emotions is soothing process. Fine. I hope, can you mute Ms. Prativa? Can you mute, Siddhi, can you mute? Yeah. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. And I hope you got a little perspective of what happens with parent and child. And this is our motivation that we want to create new discussions. That's why we will try and bring new themes every week. So we haven't decided about the theme next week. If you have some suggestions, we will be more than happy to hear from you. You can put it across the group. I will request Siddhi to open the group for everyone to message. And if you can put your right intentions and ideas or concepts which you want to discuss, I would be more than happy. My team would be more than happy to work on it. Please give us some suggestions and we will be happy. One thing I want to mention today is that because we took this parent-child topic and we were working on it, we were thinking what all is to be done. We came up with one more thing initiative which we want to conduct, and we are conducting it in next month. But this initiative is taken especially for parents who are first time parents or new parents. So who have children below 7 years of age. Why? Because we have seen that when that the influence which individuals have below 7 years of age stays with them for a lifetime. Because I am in adult counseling, I am into couple counseling. I have met many adults who go through these challenges which are related to their parents and which are related to their early childhood. So we are conducting one seminar, which will be a one-day thing, which will be a 90-minute seminar, wherein we will help parents to understand what challenges children go through and how to change your parenting style during these years, 0 to 7. So if you have a child who is below 7 years of age and you would like to know better about what kind of emotions the child goes through, what kind of unconscious processes the child goes through, please join that seminar. We are conducting it next month, I think on 9th. It will be a Sunday and we are conducting on 9th. And I hope all of you come for that. People who do not even have children below that age also can join in and understand. It will be a good initiative. It will be a 90 minutes thing wherein 1 hour we will be making you understand what are the challenges the child goes through, what kind of influences you have as a parent on the child, and the next 30 minutes will be question answer sessions, so that you can come across and ask us honestly whatever you have to say. Are there any additions you want to do, Siddhi, to this, or Ruchika, you want to add something?
So, yeah, the seminar or the webinar that we are conducting is basically to understand how to raise emotionally intelligent children. So, teaching emotions, how to understand emotions and how to communicate to the child so that the child knows how to talk in emotions, because that is a challenge with a lot of children face today, especially teenagers. They talk in emoticons, but they don't know how to communicate their real emotions. So, we are helping parents learn how to help their children, especially below the 7 years of age, to develop good emotional and strong emotional intelligence. So that's the whole idea.
Thank you. I was just reading the chat box.
Sorry to interrupt. How will we understand when the link for the upcoming session?
We will be sending it on the group. Are you on the group, Pratibha ji?
Yeah, I'm in conversation on Friday group.
Yeah. So you will receive the link.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You all have to do a registration. So we are going to do a formal registration process for it, because people tend to join the group and then they don't attend. So we are going to take specific numbers only, and we are going to put a registration thing. People need to register for it and then they can join the group.
Sure. Yeah.
The process for that. You will get the link, Pratibha ji, on the group. By tomorrow or day after tomorrow, you will receive the link.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yes. Anything else, Siddhi? Fine. So we will stop for the day. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming here. And there were many people here, but them have exited. That's why I usually want to finish it at 8 o'clock. But when I am having such an interesting conversation with all of you, I feel really happy. It's a very interesting thing. And I would want you as parents to give more inputs next time. And we will try and bring a new thing also. And please do put in your suggestions for the next week's theme so that we can take that up. Okay, fine. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sriman. Thanks a ton. Thank you very much.
Thanks and good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much.
Thanks and good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.